What's up, Gov Seekers? How's everybody doing today? It's another glorious day in planet Earth. Things are going great. Human race is awesome. I think the human race is pretty awesome today. It's pretty exciting time to be an American and a member of the human race. Thank you, everybody watching on Lee Camp's YouTube and on my YouTube. And if you're watching on either one of our YouTubes, make sure you subscribe to the other one. Unless you're holding some sort of stupid grudge that one of us said that you don't agree with, then you're stupid. But thanks for watching nonetheless, and everybody watching over on Rockfin. Wherever else this is being broadcast, I'm sure CNN's going to pick this up any moment now. CNN really likes what we have to say. And then everybody watching at Langley, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support. And thank you to everybody in the chat. Holly Horn, our moderator. I don't know if Play Saver Wolf is here, but how is somebody? Hello from Montreal. All right. This message brought to you by Blue Painter's Tape. Something is being. Oh, I guess I see. All right. Lee's posting that. It's going to both of our things. Got it. All right. Makes sense. All right.
Wow, that got weird. You notice you never see Lee and Graham in the same room at the same time.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
I saw that you decided to leave and I jumped in here, so it got very weird there for a minute.
Yeah, I just had to take off, man. Sorry, I got to split.
Like Graham disappeared. Then that might be a good time to introduce myself.
Yeah, I mean, lottery's getting up over $1.5 billion. I figured I just might as well run out to my local liquor store and get myself a lotto ticket.
You know, they also sell tax there.
I really feel attacked.
You have been. You were mentioning the how well the human race is doing, and they call it the human race because there's a finish line, and we're almost there.
We're almost at the finish line. We're almost there. Yeah, this is Government Secrets, episode 138 with the two most censored comedians in America, Graham Howard and Lee Camp. So, sounds like you've been having fun talking about what's going on in the Middle East on your various platforms.
Did you hear something? Did word come down to you?
No, I'm just seeing, your posts, and I admire you, and I give credit to you and like Katie Halper and other people that are Jewish calling out Israel, and the amount of shit you guys are taking is unreal.
Oh yeah. No, and it's I've already done 2 hours of live streams that were basically just on Gaza and Israel. And here's the thing. And of course this pisses off actually some leftists. I don't think we should be like celebrating or even some lesser word than celebrating, looking glowingly upon murder of innocent civilians on either side.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and act like innocent civilians weren't killed. It seems like many were. Of course, there's a bunch of bullshit out there. No, there weren't 40 babies beheaded and all that.
Right.
Just utter horror. It's like, dudes, get better with your propaganda because that's fucking ridiculous. But hilariously, and I feel like this sums it all up. Vox, neoliberal Vox, did an article titled something like "Where to Stand Morally on What's Going On in Gaza," and it's an article about how if you are, celebrating or saying positive things about what Hamas has done, then you are morally broken. And it's like, okay, well, you could make that argument if you also make half the article about how the same shit, except with larger weaponry, has been done by a non-oppressed people, at least in the case of Israel, against Gaza, against Palestinians. If you make that point as well, which of course Fox does not, they're just like,
No.
morally, you're on the right side if you only talk about what Hamas has done and you never mention over generations the tragedy that has been perpetrated against Palestinians.
Dude,
So,
a month ago, a 2-year-old Palestinian boy was killed by the Israeli army. 200 Palestinians have been killed this summer prior to the Hamas attack. It's like since the beginning of the
yeah.
year, it's, I mean,
And during the Great March of Return, the IDF was literally just picking off. I mean, they weren't even near them. They're 100 yards away, 500 yards away, picking off people with press logos across, like medics, children, just executing them.
yeah, it's, I was really, I don't know what to do. Like I went to a yoga class this morning and I get out of yoga, it's hot yoga class. And I'm just like spent. I'm just like zenned out, hot yoga class.
So you're saying you have gone through about the same as the Palestinians? Because it was just that hot. The yoga was that hot.
Do you know how hard it is to do yoga, Lee? I mean, do you have any idea what I've suffered? No, this is not.
You were just spent. I was just rocked my world.
No, I preface that because I was at a loss for words when in the lobby of my yoga studio,
yeah,
I heard this woman who sounded like she had an Israeli accent talking to 2 American women like, they're not even human. They're less than animals. And I was like, and I didn't hear say Palestinian, but I was like, gee, let me guess who she's talking about. And I start to turn around like I'm about to say something. I was like, wait, what? I just had no energy. And my yoga teacher saw this and he goes, hey, comes in. Hey, Graham, how was class today? And he kind of walks me,
running interference.
walks me into the men's locker room. Like, good class. Your techniques. I was like, okay, all right. You don't want to get into this in the lobby. That's cool.
Right this way, Graham, to a quieter place. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
No, yeah, it is.
And then,
and there's so many people, as a Jew. For those who don't know, I'm atheist by choice, Jewish by birth. But like as a Jew, you get you're getting all these emails from family and friends and saying, oh, there's going to be vigils at this JCC or synagogue or whatever, and it's like okay, have that vigil as long as you're also having a vigil for the fucking genocide that's being perpetrated against the Palestinians right now. You know how many people in Gaza had nothing to do with and had no idea Hamas was going to do anything, and yet like indiscriminate bombing that is being done by Israel is a war crime. It is not U.S. policy. It's not legal under about 15 different agreements, including the Geneva Convention. Like it's just horrific.
Yeah, and I thought, I had this a Syrian girl that's her Twitter handle on my show Monday to discuss this, but I gotta say, like, this is when Democracy Now! Actually is really shining. It shines as a independent media outlet. It's very neoliberal when it comes to like Ukraine and other stuff, but
yeah,
Amy Goodman, man, like one story after she interviewed this guy today from a newspaper in Tel Aviv, who's like the headline of his op-ed piece was like, there's one person to blame for this, and it's Netanyahu. And he's like, it's good to see, not that, the whole world should be speaking out about this, but it's really, I say this as someone who was raised Catholic, why I'm so vehemently critical and publicly critical of the Catholic Church is it's like, yo, man, this is our problem. Not everyone can weigh in on it for sure, but I have to absolutely call out the insane BS of the Catholic Church. And there's still, and I draw this parallel to a certain extent. There's some parallels and some different, but like there's still Catholics today who are like, don't be critical of the Catholic Church. You know, like, oh, they do good work and a few bad apples. Like, shut your mouth. This was from every archdiocese on up to the damn Vatican. They knew this was happening.
Yeah.
They sent priests to third world countries. And so I bring this up to say, like, whenever I hear blind allegiance to anything, I think you're nuts. I think you're in a cult. And when I hear just like, I stand with Israel, well, hold on. Why? Just because I'm Jewish? Oh, sorry, I can't. You lost me. You know, like, and oh, that means you love Hamas? Don't love Hamas. Don't like what they're doing at all. But I understand how they got created. And to say like it's like saying, hey, if you're for Black Lives Matter, oh, I guess Lee Camp loves the Bloods and the Crips. He loves dealing drugs. You know,
yeah, it's like, you know. There's a million analogies that could be had, but you know, as a Jew, I'll talk about the Holocaust. Like if someone escaped from a Holocaust concentration camp and killed Nazi guards, I'm all for it. And then they run around finding the Nazis they can find and killing them, I'm still supportive. If they're then hunting down just every person, every German shopkeeper, the 6-year-old that they can find and murdering them all, at some point you got to be like, I think you've become the monster that you were trying to fight against. Yeah. And so it's like I support them breaking through the fucking fence, which is not legally a border. I support that. I support the fact that they are basically at war with IDF. But, when it gets into we're just going to, kill anyone we come across and I don't know all of the truth of it. It certainly sounds like many innocent civilians were killed. I don't know how many of them were like literally just anyone we can mow down. I don't know if that shit was going on. But clearly they're innocent civilians. That is not questionable. And there's innocent civilians who are held captive right now on both sides. I mean, how many innocent Palestinians are in fucking prison in Israel right now? So on both sides, and it's like, I don't support any of that shit. I'm not going to stand here and just celebrate one side over another. It's moral idiocy.
Yeah. If you're anti-war, then guess what? You're anti-war. And I'll use the same analogy. So in the 60s and 70s, I use Ireland as a fair comparison because Ireland was under English rule for 700 years. And about 100 years ago, Ireland got its freedom. But England went, we're just going to hang on to this northern part. And there's been numerous.
Kind of like us with Gitmo.
Yeah. Numerous uprisings in the 60s and 70s. It really came to a head, and the English government was really brutal, and thus the creation of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. And again, same thing. The IRA was kind of justified initially, but then the IRA also blew up parades and killed innocent children and people. And it's like, I wasn't down with that. I'm not down with that. Like, that's not cool. Like you don't get
And the other thing you can say, though, is many of us said this type of thing will happen if you oppress a people. Now, predicting something, saying this is what you're going to cause is not endorsing it. It is, Chris Hedges put out an article titled something like the Palestinians are speaking the language of violence they learned from Israel. It's like, if you are going to oppress a people for decades and bomb them indiscriminately, and they can't get the medicine they need. So a lot of people talk about the straight up murders, of course, by Israel, but the life expectancy in Gaza is very low because they're drinking dirty water and that's allowed through, and they're not even getting medicines for preventable diseases. So it's like, you're going to cause a situation where there's going to be horrific bloodshed. And
yeah. I remember saying when 9/11 happened, going, look, I don't like what they did, crashing planes into towers, but America had a lot to do with creating an environment where terrorists, were fostered, look at our lineage. I mean, we've talked about it, the Mossadegh, and we helped create Islamic fundamentalism because we needed Iran's oil. And you can't create. It's the same thing too with when the riots happened in Santa Monica in LA, and I had a couple of arguments with friends. I was like, I'm not happy there was rioting 4 blocks from my home during the George Floyd riots. I wasn't happy that downtown Santa Monica got looted. but I understood how it happened because I've been to South Central Los Angeles because I've been big brother to a kid. I've been in and get like, let me tell you what, if I grew up in South Central and then I came to Santa Monica and I see Trader Joe's and day spas and
Oh, yeah,
Jamba
totally,
Juice, and I
totally.
would be furious. I'd be
And
like,
guys in hot yoga, just
just dumb surfer YouTubers, just, always sweaty or something. It's like, I would be furious at these
yeah,
guys.
yeah. No,
So, yeah.
absolutely. So if people, yeah, I was gonna say, we don't normally do hyper topical stuff. That's not our purview on here. But if people want to see my 2 hours of live streams so far on Israel Palestine, that's at you can go to leecamp.com, but it's rumble.com/leecamp is the main place.
Right on. Yeah. And I give anybody covering this, honestly, I give you a lot of credit, but especially like not drinking the Kool-Aid of, well, that's my religion or my, like, I'm just to see, yeah, to see you, I mean, Katie Halper, Amy Goodman, and to see like these journalists in Israel speaking out about it is like, that's important. That's what it's going to take. Because, I've spoken about it and I will, but it's easy for them to, I am told, oh, you don't get it. You're not.
Right, right. You're not Jewish. You don't get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. And there's a lot of peps out there, progressive except on Palestine. So there's there's loads of them.
Yeah, it's the same old, like when everyone was standing with Ukraine, I was like, oh, really? Couldn't stand with Yemen or Syria or Afghan or any of the other ones? All
Well,
right.
I flipped on. Sorry, we can wrap this up soon, but I flipped on CNN and MSNBC to see what their coverage is, and of course, I expected to be pro-Israel, but it's largely similar to like the day after 9/11. It's largely just like little images of the dead and the dying and the captive, and it's fucking faces of children, and it's just like all these people have been killed, and it's horrific. And it's like, okay, but I hope you're doing those images for both sides. I hope you've been doing those images for the past, fucking 40 years, just images of Palestinian children that, oh, that's right, you haven't. You just noticed yesterday that people have been killed.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, who's got the more fun segment? Who's going to lead us off after that?
I mean, I'd go with mines. Anytime I have a segment where not a lot of people die, I tend to view it as the funnier one. So there's nary any death in my segment.
Mine doesn't have a lot of that. It just has more deep dives on the CIA's psychotic behavior. So we'll do mine first.
Okay.
Because mine is also, it very much ties into other past Gov Seeks that we've done. So I'll do government secret segment number one.
And just to tease so everyone hangs in there through the whole show, we're going to reveal the truth behind the DARE program in a few minutes as well.
When you texted me that today, I was like, of course, the DARE program is some horrible.
Of course, it wasn't straight up like helping kids say no to drugs. Yeah.
Just like next week, just the CIA infiltrates crossing guards or whatever, just like paramilitary organization. So we've talked about MK Ultra. We've referenced it a lot, but there's a whole the MK Ultra universe of insane that all either came before MK Ultra or after, and they all sort of overlapped on using psychedelic drugs and heroin and mescaline. But I found this fun breadcrumb. This is what I love. So first, we're going to read this story, which is so this was in Truth Out. This came out. There was back in 2010, there was an outbreak of dengue fever in Florida and basically in the Key West, which revealing about 10% of the town's population. So what happened? July 13th, Florida officials released the findings of the Center for Disease Control study conducted recently in the Key West area, revealing that about 10% of the population, or 1,000 people, were infected with the dengue fever virus.
Wait, you said Florida? Then I don't care. They can die.
Oh, I should say this. My Florida joke on Instagram just crossed 1 million views.
Really? Was it pro or anti?
I'm just poking a little fun at Florida. And the best part about the comment section, there's a lot of people from Florida going, I live in Florida. This is hilarious. It's basically making fun of people who moved, like why people moved to Florida. And then it's also a lot of people in Florida getting mad at the joke, and which is maybe my favorite part of the whole experiment.
Fair.
There's a certain kind of victory I feel when you post a joke and someone's all mad and clearly they didn't get it. They didn't get anything of it. Like
I've never had hardly any success posting humor on Twitter because it's just like it's half of all comments either don't get it or don't understand sarcasm or
and I kind of get that with Twitter because it's written, but this is an Instagram reel. It's a clip of my special. You hear people laughing. I'm standing on a stage with a microphone.
It does help. It does help when there's people laughing. Yeah.
And yet still there's a percentage of people that are like, wow, what are you talking about? Like, it's crazy. So anyway, back to Key West. They found out that there was all this outbreak of dengue fever, right? When this happened, though, the Homeland Security issued a terror alert concerning the findings that came out of Key West and in basically Monroe County. And the Monroe County Health Department said dengue is rare in Florida, but not unknown. It's just one of several mosquito-borne illnesses monitored by the department, and why we continually remind the public to take precautions against bites. Many people may be infected and not develop any symptoms. So the CDC has consistently reported that there have been no outbreaks of dengue fever in Florida since 1934 and none in the continental United States since 1946. However, the U.S. Army and CIA biological warfare researchers of far over 50 years, this guy has a book called The Biology of Doom. The CIA launched a multi-million-dollar research program under which dengue fever and several additional exotic diseases were studied for use in offensive biological warfare attacks. Now, this is from
define studied. Dropped on Florida.
So this goes to. So then I went over to our good friends at Wikipedia. And I started researching where this came from. So there was Project Chatter, which is the precursor to MK Ultra. This began in the fall of 1947, focusing on the identification and testing of drugs in interrogations and the recruitment of agents. So again, we know 1947 is when the CIA was formed as part of the whatever Defense Evil Act or whatever. The research included laboratory experience on both animals and human subjects. The program operated under the direction of Charles Savage, great name, and in Bethesda, Maryland, from 1947 to 1953. The project was geared to
from age 3. That kid was like, bioweapons. What do you want to do with your life, little Bobby Savage? Bioweapons.
Little Charlie Savage. Hey, Charlie, what do you want for Christmas? some sort of neurotoxin,
Dengue.
LSD that we can train people to be assassins without knowing it. Okay.
Okay.
Your brother wants a red wagon, but all right, we'll get.
Red wagon and germ warfare for you.
So his project was geared at identifying agents, both synthetic and natural, that are effective during interrogation, as well as testing possible treatments for depression. The project was centered on, but not restricted to, the use of anabasine, scopamine, and mescaline. It was the U.S. government's first project in which lethargic and LSD, basically the first time LSD was used on human subjects. So again, the precursor, it merged into MK Ultra in 1953. So from there, where is the from there then, we had MK Ultra, right, which was a lot of fun. But also prior to
And the
MK
merging
Ultra,
of those two is just amazing. It's like when cheese found nachos. It's just,
oh my God, it's the Reese's peanut butter cup of torture tactics. Hey, you've got your mescaline in my LSD. No, you've got your LSD in my mescaline. Like,
yeah.
they take LSD and then they wrap it in a chocolatey dengue fever nougat.
Yep.
they give that to people. So
Yep.
there's more of these insane projects that envelop with each other. So Project Artichoke, which is also referred to as Operation Artichoke, was initially known as Project Bluebird, and Artichoke arose on 1951. So still under the Chatter Project, but soon to be Artichoke was then succeeded by MK Ultra. MK Ultra started in 1953. Just want to give everybody the timeline. The project studied the effects of hypnosis, forced addiction, that's fun, and subsequent withdrawal from morphine and other chemicals, including LSD, to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. The Project Artichoke was a mind control program that gathered information together with intelligence divisions of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and FBI. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 52 that asked, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation? That was in...
Could we ever do such a thing? Sarhan. Could we ever break someone's mind to the level they would commit murder?
Somebody and they get other people to commit murder? Charlie Manson. Could we ever get so the Project Artichoke and the CIA secret code for carrying out in-house and overseas experiments using LSD, hypnosis, and total isolation as forms of psychological harassment for special interrogations on human subjects. So Project Artichoke was the secret code name. So they were like, oh, we're giving this guy a little Project Artichoke or whatever. And that's what they were
serving up some artichoke.
Yeah. So here's the fun stuff that the agents used: cocaine, marijuana, heroin, peyote, and mescaline. And they increasingly saw LSD as the most promising drug. The subjects who left this project were fogged with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the experience. In 1952, LSD was increasingly given to unknowing CIA agents to determine the drug's effects on unsuspecting people.
Including, who was the scientist they murdered? Was his name Olson?
I forget. Yeah, that's, I don't know if his name is in here.
We did a segment on him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But also, and this is what relates to, what happened in Florida in 2010, Artichoke researched the potential of dengue fever and other diseases. A declassified Artichoke memo read, "Not all viruses have to be lethal. The objective included those that act as short-term and long-term incapacitating agents.
Mm-hmm. And they're all a good time.
So the CIA sought to establish control over what it perceived as the weaker and less intelligent segments of society. This was overseen by Paul F. Gaynor, or the potential agents, defectors, refugees, prisoners of war, and other. A CIA report states that if hypnosis succeeded, assassins could be created to assassinate a, quote, prominent, redacted politician, or if necessary, an American official.
Sound
But
familiar?
that's not Sirhan Sirhan. That's not Sirhan Sirhan. The overseas operations took place in locations throughout Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines. Teams were assembled to manage these operations and were told to conduct at overseas bases operation experiments and so on. And then where is... So then let me go back to this article. So, several CIA documents, as well as the findings of the 1975 Congressional Committee, reveal that 3 sites in Florida, Key West, Panama City, and Avon Park, as well as 2 other locations in Central Florida, were used for experiments with mosquito-borne dengue fever and other biological substances. The experiments in Avon Park, about 170 miles from Miami, were covertly conducted in low-income African-American neighborhood that contained several newly constructed public housing projects.
Ah, Jesus Christ. I kind of thought you were going to say they conducted it in, a rich white neighborhood.
No, it's weird. They didn't.
Like most of their others.
Yeah, most of their other ones are always done on rich white people. Yeah, for sure. This one was probably just a mistake that it happened to be in a black neighborhood.
Yeah, addresses were similar.
There was another CIA document revealed a top secret project. MK Naomi clearly indicated that the mosquitoes used in Avon Park were the 80s Argentipe type, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, specifically equipped aircraft. In one of the larger experiments, released 600,000 mosquitoes over the area. In one of the...
And they thought this was going to be contained somehow?
Yeah, those are clearly this... What could go wrong dropping 600,000 mosquitoes? Just...
Jesus.
In one of the Avon Park experiments, about 150,000 mosquitoes were dropped in paper bags designed to open upon impact with the ground. Each bag held about 1,000 insects. Besides dengue, some of the mosquitoes were also carrying yellow fever. Avon Park residents still living in the area say the experiments resulted in at least 6 or 7 deaths. One elderly resident told Truth Out.
What was their... Did we already go over what their goal was? To find out that they could drop mosquitoes that give people dengue fever?
Yeah. Well, the 1978 Pentagon publication entitled Biological Warfare, Secret Testing and Volunteers. They were secret volunteers, Lee.
Secret to them as well. That sucks when it's a secret to you that you are a volunteer for dengue.
Hey, Lee, this might be a weird thing to bring up, but I volunteered you for a dengue fever thing a couple months back. Is this a bad time to bring that up?
I volunteered you for herpes. Did I mention that before?
Yeah. I volunteered you for draping my balls across your chin when we were in a hotel room together a couple years ago. I volunteered you for that. Is that weird?
Graham, I thought we weren't talking about that. What? How dare you?
No, but you volunteered. I don't know what let's not make it weird.
That's right. I volunteered. That's true. That's true.
This is let me get... So the the Army's Chemical Corps and Special Operations and Project Division at Fort Detrick, conducted. Fort Detrick, boy, where did I? Oh,
There.
that's right. In 2019, some pathogens mysteriously escaped, and then 4 months later, a global pandemic happened. Anyway, I'm sorry, I misread
Weren't
something.
they the one where weren't they the origin of the Spanish flu too? Was it that one? We covered that once.
I don't know if it was Dietrich. I don't know. Maybe Spanish flu. Yeah, we actually sent Spanish flu around the world. We revealed that on this show. So
Yeah, we started.
um,
Well, it was Fort Riley in Kansas, but was it renamed? Anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
right. Is it fun? In 1959, Fort Detrick launched the largest mosquito experiment called Operation Bellwether, consisting of over 50 field experiments. Some of these experiments designed to ascertain the rate of biting and mosquito aggressiveness were conducted in partnership with scientists with the Rockefeller Institute of New York.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah. And so here's some of the organizations that have been involved in this. Some of the Bellwether experiments were conducted in Florida, as well as other areas, Georgia, Maryland, Utah, Arizona. The 1978 Pentagon publication, along with 2 other Chemical Corps reports, revealed the identities of a number of the companies and institutions that helped the Army in the offensive biological warfare. The Armor Research Foundation, the Battelle Memorial Institute, Benvenue Labs, University of Florida, oh, go Gators, Florida State University, go Seminoles, and the Lovell Chemical Company.
And I'm sure we didn't then go on to drop dengue fever and other things into Vietnam, correct?
I don't know about that, but
We only did Florida. We just
only did
stopped
Florida.
it. Just stopped it at Florida, right?
Although in a completely unrelated story, in the summer of 1981, Cuba experienced a severe dengue fever outbreak. It's weird. And they had 158 dengue-related deaths with about 75,000 reported cases. And prior to 1981, Cuba had reported a very small number of cases between 1944 and 1977.
Meanwhile, just standing on Guantanamo Bay, that's opening bags of mosquitoes. What?
Yeah, the CIA contractors and the military did flyovers, and they were literally trying to drop them on Fidel Castro's house. And the Soviet media reported that the CIA sent operatives into Afghanistan from Pakistan to launch dengue epidemic. The Soviets claimed the operatives were posing as malaria workers, but instead were releasing dengue-infected mosquitoes. The CIA denied the charges. In 85 and 86, authorities in Nicaragua accused the CIA of creating a massive outbreak of dengue fever that infected thousands of the country. CIA officials denied any involvement, but Army researchers admitted that intensive work with arthropod vectors from offensive biological warfare objectives had been conducted at Fort Detrick in early 1980s. Having first started in the early 50s, Fort Detrick researchers reported that huge colonies of mosquitoes infected with not only dengue, but yellow fever were maintained at the Maryland installation.
And not one got out.
So anytime there's dengue fever, just know probably the good old CIA made it happen.
Is there any horrific thing our CIA is not connected to? We should start doing segments on that.
Yeah.
Because we'd have fewer to do.
That's a tougher ask, Lee. Name something horrible the CIA wasn't somehow at least tangentially involved in. It's going to be tough. Going to be a tough one. So that I know it took a little longer because it tied into all these other operations, but that's the wonderful story of the CIA and dengue fever.
And it was such a nice bedtime story.
And now, government secrets. Segment number 2, the rich history of the DARE program.
Let's see if I can get this image to come up. Nope. That did not show up. Okay. Never mind then. Anyway, you remember DARE, right?
Yes.
Everybody remembers Dare if you're in the United States at any point. There's a image from 1987. That's around the time I remember it. Police officers would come to your school and educate you on drugs and tell you how to report people for drugs. And so let's see where to begin. So this is an article by Slate put this together, but when 11-year-old Crystal Grendel was called into the counselor's office at her Searsport, Maine elementary school in 1991, she didn't expect to be asked if her parents used drugs. After thinking it through and likely following some pressure, Crystal reported her parents smoked marijuana once in a while. The counselor, after pulling Crystal out of class multiple times over the next few days to inquire how she was doing, suggested Crystal go to the police station to tell the sergeant, the school's DARE officer, about her parents' drug use. And especially for those in other countries who might not know the timeline, marijuana is legal in a bunch of the United States now, but was very much not so in the 90s. And they've now recommended that it be dropped down on the schedule of drugs, but I believe still to this day, or at least until the last few months, it was the equivalently illegal and at the top level of drugs, Schedule 1 drug, like cocaine and meth and everything else. Wow. The following day, the sergeant, along with 2 other DARE officers, came to the school to interrogate Crystal. This is a 11-year-old, about her parents' drug habits, playing on the trust that DARE officers had worked to facilitate with the students because they acted basically as teachers for special, certain days where they'd come in and have DARE programs. Gilway told her that if she cooperated by informing him about her parents' drug habits, there would be no consequences. Crystal recalled, the officer continued with a hardly veiled threat, telling Crystal that if she did not cooperate by snitching on her parents' use of marijuana, both Crystal and her parents would be in a lot of trouble. Gilway concluded with a warning. He told Crystal, often parents beat their children after their children talk to police. So she shouldn't tell her parents that she was talking to him.
Jeez.
So they brought in an 11-year-old, interrogated her, and told her that if she told her parents, she would likely be beaten by her parents. After Crystal finally complied and said that her parents used marijuana, the officers pushed her for more information about their schedules, the layout of the house. That afternoon, police raided their home, arrested her parents, and took Crystal and her younger sister to a distant relative's house, having neglected to make any plans for the girls following the raid. The incident led to a civil suit against the officers. The court found in favor of Crystal, and the judge admonished the police. But this apparently was not unusual for the DARE program, where they weren't just telling kids that, if you have anyone in your life that uses marijuana, they're basically, equivalent to Satan. And, they really did talk about marijuana like it was, equivalent to sacrificing neighborhood dogs in your living room.
Well, my parents, I saw my dad smoke weed a couple of times.
Did you report him, Graham? Like a good?
What am I? What are we living in a lawless society? I sent him to jail.
But so DARE nowadays, even though I didn't realize how late it ran, it was even after 2010. It was still going in some schools. But DARE's often, joked about now as something that did nothing. But in fact, it did a lot of things other than stop drug use. It did a lot of horrific. And so this article doesn't even get much into the propaganda aspect of it, which is just telling you that police officers are always your friend. They're always there to help. They're there to get the bad guy. And in many ways, they were in these classrooms, they were held up the same as teachers. Now, kids are very much come to trust their teachers, especially when they're under, teenage years. And teachers are second to parents for many kids in terms of trust. And so to have these police officers come in and be like, this is equivalent to your teachers. These people are your friend. They're always here to help. It's just another level of propaganda. When, of course, in many people's lives, police ruin their lives. Police also murder a lot of people. But
I love it when a program actually creates way more problems than it solves. I mean, that's kind of that's what I'm really, I love. I really, it's.
Oh, you've heard of the CIA's Dengue program, have you?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You and I are on the same page. I love the dengue. As soon as the show's over, Lee, I have some paper bags full of mosquitoes with dengue that I'm going to just chuck off my balcony into my neighbor's backyard.
But so outside of just the propaganda outlet aspect, which I feel like you could do a whole episode on just that, but the program turned unwitting kids into the eyes and ears of the police. It integrated the police into the daily life of schools. This was before people had cops wandering the hallways of schools, which is now quite common, but back then was not, unless they were DARE officers. It also had the accompanying goal and potential consequences of making the police officer a trusted friend and mentor to millions of kids nationwide. What Los Angeles Police Department Chief Daryl Gates envisioned when he proposed a drug prevention program. Of course, this came from Los Angeles.
Daryl Gates is like the worst. He's the Alan Dulles of like police chiefs.
Is he?
He's so bad, dude.
So he came up with the DARE program, and he envisioned it in 1983. There was a program that would turn children themselves into frontline soldiers in the war on drugs. It would do so by turning the police into teachers, and the kids unwittingly are their surveillance against mainly their parents, maybe also their siblings if they have older siblings, but really their parents. The DARE curriculum suggested the DARE instructor was a trusted confidant who could be told when a student was found with drugs or knew someone using drugs. The DARE curriculum emphasized the 3 R's: recognize, resist, and report.
Oh, wow. Hey, kids, who wants to get a gold star for being a snitch? Who?
Yeah. Who wants the snitch sticker? The snitcher.
You get a snitch sticker and you get a snitch sticker.
Who wants the scratch and sniff snitch sticker?
We're giving out Snickers bars, but they made it snitcher bars. Everybody gets a snitcher.
Yes. You get a sticker snitcher and a snitcher sticker. Stickers. All right. Recognize, resist, and report is the primary lesson the students to take home. Students took the message and ran with it. And I should just interrupt here and say this article does not mention, which we've covered in a previous episode, that the drug war in its entirety was designed not to help people with drugs, but to destroy certain communities. It began under Nixon, and it was really designed to just blow up and imprison Black communities and activist communities. And they succeeded in doing that to many people and many people's lives. And but that was the initial goal.
And they in Florida, they sent them dengue mosquitoes. Like, how much crap do they have to take? Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all right.
But if they resist, they're terrorists.
Right. They're terrorists. Students took the message and ran with it because a lot of students are trying to do good. They're trying to impress their teachers. They're trying to impress their parents. Many of them are afraid of these people, as well as wanting to be liked. Many kids are afraid if they don't do what's they're told is the right thing, then their parents will fucking hate them or beat them or some shit. Students took the message and ran with it, not only reporting on those who offered them drugs, but also on family and friends who used drugs. Federal officials reinforced the message that snitching on friends and family members was an act of compassion. The former Secretary of Education and the nation's first drug czar, William Bennett, even encouraged children to turn in their friends for using drugs, saying, quote, "Let's be absolutely clear about this point. It isn't snitching or betrayal to tell an adult that a friend of yours is using drugs and needs help. It's an act of true loyalty, a true friendship. It's the right thing to do." Uh, but all of this is under the premise that someone smoking weed is equivalent to someone planning, a Columbine. Like, it's equivalent to acting like if there's a 15-year-old who, drinks a beer behind the school and then has a smoke of a joint, then he needs the cops involved in his life because he is about to just murder people.
I know this is in the 80s. I mean, this is like what,
Through the 90s as well.
40, 50 years after like Reefer Madness, which is hilarious. Like they're still smoking weed makes you a demon child that wants to eat puppies. So turn them all in, snitch them out, kids.
Well, yeah, and it's because, like I said before, this wasn't really about helping people who have a problem with drugs. There could be help for people that have problems with drugs, and I have no problem with those people getting help for their problem. This is about destroying communities, imprisoning people. I would imagine, although here's the thing, there's not a lot of data on how many people were arrested due to the DARE program. I imagine most of those records are not even kept. But then on top of that, there's certainly not data on how many of those arrested by the DARE program were Black families as compared to white families. And I imagine there's a lot of racism on that front as well. So again, drug war designed to destroy certain communities.
And I mean, this like I would love to dig deeper on this because I have a hard time believing that the private prison industry wasn't somewhere involved in this program. They didn't.
When did private prisons become a thing? I don't
like
even know.
late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're definitely a thing in terms of drug laws, but Glenn Levant, former LAPD deputy chief and executive director of DARE, the nonprofit organization that oversaw DARE operations across the country, related that students told DARE officers and school officials about parental cocaine use on a weekly basis. Because, I don't know if you've ever met anyone who's ever done any cocaine, but they're equivalent to a serial murderer. Absolutely. And there was a notorious DARE question box placed in every classroom, which students could use to submit information anonymously to the DARE officer. While the question box was not advertised as a place for students to report on parental drug use, it often functioned in that capacity. Proving children with a means to report abuse and violence may have been laudable. Providing children with a way to report abuse may have been laudable. But the line between ensuring child safety and executing police surveillance was very blurry. DARE was turning kids into informants. While it's unclear how widespread students turning in friends or family members for drug use became, anecdotal evidence from across the country highlights the insidious nature of using police officers as teachers who were meant to facilitate trust between kids and police. And this is the propaganda aspect. It also gets kids to think that cops are the answer to every problem. No matter how small, call the cops. Call guys with guns to come running in, no matter how tiny the issue is. Someone next door with playing loud music. Well, clearly guys with guns need to handle this.
Well, I mean, obviously you need guys with guns when like someone's just taking the stress off by smoking a plant. Like that definitely needs lethal force.
Yeah. That's why even if it's a cigarette, I still call the cops just to be safe. Just to be safe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just call in an airstrike. If it's too loud.
Just call in a drone bombing.
Yeah. I'll just, if my neighbors are playing loud music past about 9:30, I'm just napalm them. They're done. Like it's over.
Sergeant Robert Gates suggested that arresting drug-using parents was a positive outcome. Here's the thing. Let's suspend our criticism for the moment of just the surveillance aspect of this. Let's even suspend our criticism of the idea that someone who does weed or something has to go to prison, has to be locked behind bars. Let's suspend that for 1 second and say, this still must have just destroyed relationships and
Oh,
lives. Like,
and
what do
families. I
parents
mean,
think
like,
if their kid gets them locked in prison? Like,
it's, I mean, imagine then decades later. I'd love to know, like, decades later, like, what's going on. Like, yeah, I was 9, 10 years old and I saw my dad and mom smoking, they had a bong, and then they just now got out of jail and it ruined my, like,
yeah,
look at the
they,
just
they never
awful.
trust me. I never trust anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, carnage. My dad, oh, is your dad alive? No, he got shanked in prison because I ratted him out because the DARE program told me to, and he's dead. And I didn't go to college as a result, and that's why I have a face tattoo. But I'm glad I did what the DARE guy said.
And that's also why I shank anyone in a blue uniform I come across, which includes mailmen. So that's been a bit of an issue
Yeah,
for
I've
me.
shanked a couple of Amazon guys. It's been pretty nutty over here.
Uh, so this sergeant says it's a positive outcome. He says arresting drug using parents. He says in such environments there are usually no morals, values, or training for the child. That's right. If you have ever had a parent who smoked weed once, there are no morals, values, or training for the child. He says, my personal opinion is that an arrest is the best thing that could ever happen to that parent. Marijuana could lead to harder drugs, which in turn could lead to death. What may turn out to be negative for the parent is a positive for society. You know what the number one gateway drug to drugs is? Alcohol.
Yeah,
Should we
I
lock
know.
up everyone who
It's
drinks
like,
a beer?
how nuts is this? And first of all, thank you, Annabelle Corley, for supporting the show. Thanks, Lee, for another amazing effort to stop drug use being a monumental success. So, if we understand this correctly, are your parents just drunk out of control? That's cool. But if they smoked a little weed,
Right.
lock them up. Alfred
Thank
Das
you, Alex,
Libe,
as well.
thank you. I've thought about private prisons. They should make money based off of recidivism now, not now prisoners jail. But they definitely arrest non-violent non-criminals, then jail a granny, she'll never return, get paid. Yeah.
Yeah, private prisons just encourage arrest. And they also, I mean, a lot of what courts do is decide when to let people out of prison.
Yeah.
And there's an incentive to keep them in as long as possible because they have contracts with these private
Well,
prisons.
they get paid. They get paid.
Yeah.
It's so
So while many parents supported DARE, others were more weary. In 1992, Gary Patterson, who sounds like a fucking angel, a parent in Fort Collins, Colorado, formed an organization called Parents Against DARE. I know that sounded like I was saying that sarcastically, but no, he sounds like an angel. Parents Against DARE chapters grew quickly, spreading to at least 28 states in 1992. Many parents were wary of the use of police officers in schools. Quote, it's a statewide police network run out of the Attorney General's office. One Minnesota parent said, I don't want the police or the school eliciting information about what's happening in my house without my knowledge or my consent. The stuff of Orwellian fiction. This is Big Brother putting spies in our homes. The lessons learned in DARE classes led to students telling DARE officers about parents or friends. In Caroline County, Maryland, for instance, a mother and father spent 30 days in jail after their daughter informed her DARE officer they had marijuana plants in their home. Oh my God. Which, ironically, Maryland now has just fully legalized, including recreationally. In Boston, 2 different students tipped off the police and walked out of their homes with their DARE diplomas in hand when the police arrived to arrest their parents. The police arrested their parents and gave them DARE diplomas at the same time. For those listening on the podcast, Graham has a look of stunned silence.
Wow. I really want to interview these kids today and go like, and are they like, yeah, horrible mistake, I was propagandized? Or are they like, glad I did it? The old man locked them up. Glad we could like.
We have information on one of them in a second.
Oh,
And in Boston, sorry, I did that one. In another instance, a student in Inglewood, Colorado, called 911 when he found marijuana on a bookshelf in his home. The child proudly announced to the 911 operator, "I'm a dare kid." A 9-year-old in Georgia told a reporter after informing on her parents' drug use, quote, "At school, they told us that if we ever see drugs, call 911 because people who use drugs need help." And by the way, this is assuming that during these raids, none of these people were accidentally shot, because that also happens a great deal.
yes.
So this kid calls the cops, says, "I thought the police would come to get this a 9-year-old, get the drugs and tell my parents that drugs are wrong. They never said they would arrest them. But in court, I heard them tell the judge that I wanted my mom and dad arrested. That's a lie. I did not tell them that." So a lot of these kids don't even know what it means to report someone to the police. They think the police is a good guy. He's going to come and he's going to talk to them about drug use or something.
You're going to get mommy and daddy help. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
help my. Yeah. And then here comes the help. Get down.
Right.
You know.
A helicopter help.
Yeah.
Dare's effort to humanize police officers and make them, this is the propaganda aspect, make them into trusted friends and mentors, enabled cops to become part of kids' lives and obscured the reality. Just a few more points here. As late as 2010, stories of kids that amazed me. I didn't know this shit was still going in 2010. Stories of kids turning in their parents continued to crop up when an 11-year-old in South Carolina reported on his parents' marijuana use that year, even bringing a joint into school as proof. Following a dare lesson, police arrested the kid's parents and social services removed the child and his sibling from the home, which I'm sure was the best thing for them. Absolutely. Yes. Even if it's happening in their own home with their own parents, they understand that's a dangerous situation because of what we're teaching them. Here's the update on one of them. The first one I mentioned, Crystal Grendel. A year after the incident, Crystal told a reporter following up on the case, "I would never tell on them again. Never, never, never." She also reported that she gets scared seeing police drive by her house. The distrust and fear stayed with Crystal years later. She told a reporter 6 years later, so I guess by then she's like 17 or something. She said, quote, "It makes it hard for me to trust anybody. People I thought I could trust let me down." So if anyone thinks the DARE program did nothing, it did completely destroy the trust of a lot of American children.
And destroyed their families and homes. So there's like a double win. It's like
it destroyed many families and homes. And it did, honestly, because most kids obviously did not report anyone. But for all those kids, it did a wonderful thing of propaganda, which was just making children who become adults think that cops are just the mommies and daddies of society, and you should call them for help whenever anything goes even slightly wrong.
Wow. Well, dare to be great. Sounds like
this is how you end up with the largest prison state in the world. 2 million people locked up. Something like 65 or 70% of them have never been convicted yet of anything. They're awaiting trial or other situations. So, millions of people locked up for many of them for zero reason.
Wow. America, it's a great country.
Land of the free. Did I tell you?
It's the land of the free unless you smoke a plant.
The land of a free unless you have alcohol open in public.
Yes. Right. It's the land of the free unless you say something the government doesn't like on a social media platform, then they'll shut it down.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. We have an extra segment at Patreon today, patreon.com/government secrets. That is how we keep this show going. You'll notice we have no ads at all, and that's because you guys join up at patreon.com/government secrets, and not at all because no advertiser wants anything to do with us. And
Yeah, absolutely. It's people funded. It's because we have all these advertisers that want us to talk about CIA and how
They are falling all over themselves to support this show, and we said no. We need.
we don't want 6 and 7 figure ad deals with big companies like
No.
Coca-Cola.
We want 3-figure deals with with the people.
That hot 3-figure money, it just comes steaming in every month.
But keep the show going, folks. I hope you want to join up at patreon.com/government secrets. And there's merch there. There's a government secrets mug and shit. And you also get all of our extra segments, which there's 40 some extra segments that you immediately unlock when you become a member.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, and I put a comment in the comment thread, but I have my live stand-up comedy while seated hour this Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And I don't know why Graham's making that face. Graham is making bizarre faces.
I'm just loopy. Yes, okay. Go watch Lee's special. I'll be in El Salvador the first week of November with the Adopting Bitcoin Conference. I'm doing a comedy show November 8th. You can get tickets and a discount at if you use go to adoptingbitcoin.com and use coupon code Elwood21. You save 21% on your conference pass. It's a 3-day thing. It's really fun. So come to El Salvador, or if you're in El Salvador, come to the conference. Go to grahamelwood.com.
And my tickets to my show are $5, and they're at leecamp.simpletix.com.
That is Bad Government Secrets, episode 138. CIA loves dengue fever and propaganda.
And DARE was a surveillance program.
Yeah, DARE was a complete surveillance program.
All right. See you on Patreon.
All right. We'll see you over there, guys. Patreon.com/government secrets. Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for the super chats.